All right, so Hillary Clinton is still refusing to accept the real reason she lost to President-elect Donald Trump. Now, instead of just acknowledging that she was a terribly flawed, corrupt candidate with a very long track record of failure and a large majority of American voters didn't like, Paul was dishonest, Hillary Clinton is now blaming everything but herself for her election loss. Last night at a swanky party in New York City, well, her and her liberal elitist donor friends, they went out there and she's blaming the FBI, Vladimir Putin, Russian hacking for her historic defeat. Listen to this.
We have to recognize that, as the latest reports made clear, Vladimir Putin himself directed the covert cyber attacks against our electoral system, against our democracy, apparently because he has a personal beef against me.
Obama wrapped up his last planned news conference of the year. It was dominated by questions about Russia and the role it may have played in the election.
I wanted to make sure that everybody understood we were playing this thing straight.
President Obama now defending his response to hack attacks his administration has blamed on the Russians.
My principal goal leading up to the election was making sure that the election itself went off without a hitch, that it was not tarnished, and that it did not feed any sense in the public that somehow tampering had taken place with the actual process of voting. And we accomplished that.
The Russians can't change us or significantly weaken us. They are a smaller country, they are a weaker country, their economy doesn't produce anything that anybody wants to buy except oil and gas and arms. They don't innovate. But they can impact us if we lose track of who we are. They can impact us if we abandon our values.
This week, President Barack Obama held his last press conference of the year, and he discussed his feelings towards the Electoral College's ability to stop U.S. President-elect Donald Trump from becoming President of the United States. He stated, "There are some structures in our political system as envisioned by the founders that sometimes are going to disadvantage Democrats. But the truth of the matter is that if we have a strong message, if we're speaking to what the American people care about, typically the popular vote and the Electoral College vote will align."
You know, I was shocked when I saw this news on the television. I have nothing to add. I think that the stupidity and hopelessness of such an attempt to convince people of this is obvious.
Amid a buildup of military force on Europe's eastern frontier with Russia, the U.S. and its NATO allies are taking no chances. General Frederick Ben Hodges told NBC News, 3 years after the last American tank left Europe, they are being brought back as part of our commitment to deterrence. On Thursday, Hodges welcomed a batch of tracked and wheeled support vehicles to a depot in the Netherlands. The U.S. Army began to assemble additional so-called Army prepositioned stocks for permanent storage in Europe in September. The latest shipment includes ammunition.
Russia and Syria are not the only countries challenging President Obama in his final days in office. China has brazenly stolen a piece of American technology from right under the Navy's nose.
Good evening, Brett. Defense officials tell Fox News that the crew of a U.S. Navy-owned research vessel watched from a mere quarter-mile away as a Chinese Navy ship brazenly stole an underwater oceanographic research drone in the South China Sea. The incident occurred Thursday afternoon, approximately 40 miles west of the Philippines in international waters. One China expert said the communist country must pay a price for its actions.
This is an act of war because the Chinese have seized U.S. naval property.
The Pentagon is demanding the Chinese return the underwater vehicle immediately. Officials say there is no classified material in the system designed to map the sea floor and collect ocean data. The Chinese ship had been shadowing USNS Bowditch, operated by a crew of civilian mariners and scientists. The American ship was not armed, but made repeated requests over the radio asking the Chinese to return the drone. The State Department today launched a formal protest. In the past few days, China has conducted its first live fire training exercise from its only aircraft carrier off the coast between Beijing and North Korea.
A large contingent of military ships and aircraft in the waters in what the commander of the fleet termed a milestone. The Bohai Sea is a busy seaway tucked off the northeastern coast of China and close to the DPRK. Now, the drill involved the PLA's Navy as well as a number of ships, including China's one aircraft carrier, the Liaoning, and fighter jets taking off from the deck of the carrier. Military officials say the training involved firing more than 10 air-to-air missiles, as well as showcasing anti-ship and air defense missiles. PLA naval officials involved in the exercise said the measure is allowing troops to become more confident in their equipment, as well as allowing pilots to improve their use of tactics and weapons. China has been broadcasting images of the Liaoning's J-15 fighters firing its missiles. It's the first time live fire training has been shown to the public. PLA naval authorities say the aircraft carrier was commissioned into service back in 2012 and that the live fire training was part of a regularly scheduled mission to verify the capabilities of the crew and its weapons.
Well, by now, everyone out there has heard about this new agenda to curtail the fake news, whatever the establishment deems to be non-important or, of course, counter to whatever agenda it's trying to push. Well, lo and behold, George Soros once again rears his ugly head. So we've heard now that Facebook is going to be helping to determine what stories are disputed. They're partnering up with an organization known as the Poynter Institute. Well, Poynter Institute, they have this international fact-checking network. It is openly funded by the Soros Open Society Foundation. So I'm sure that there isn't going to be any internal bias there. Now, Facebook says that if the fact-checking organizations determine that a certain story is fake, it will get flagged and disputed. And according to this Facebook announcement, there's going to be a link to the corresponding article explaining why. Stories that have been disputed may also appear lower in the newsfeed. So that means they're never going to be trending. Now, this article points out that this third-party organization, the International Fact-Checking Network, is hosted by the Poynter Institute for Media Studies. Now, this is funded by Soros's Open Society Foundations, as well as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Google, and the National Endowment for Democracy. The Poynter Institute is also an online college. It has 6 employees. It's kind of a diploma mill. And there was a story out of ABC that the Poynter Institute was actually there covering the rollout of Obamacare, and they would not give fair use time to Republicans. The Republicans said, well, we'll pay you to get some fair time, and they would not allow it. So I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of the same type of bias with this new fact-checking algorithm and these these 6 employees.
According to Politico, Donald Trump is in the perfect position to drastically reshape the judiciary system over the next 4 years. Mitch McConnell's refusal to confirm many of President Obama's nominees has set the table for Trump's appointees. Politico makes note of the fact that the Republican Senate has also set a modern record for the fewest confirmations of lifetime judicial appointees. Only 20 lifetime judicial appointments were made to circuit and appeals courts in the last 2 years of the GOP majority. According to a Congressional Research Service report, that is the lowest number in the last 28 years.
Outgoing UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon has made his last appearance in the Security Council. He used his final briefing on the Middle East to urge Israeli MPs not to press forward with a bill that would legalize settlement homes on Palestinian land.
We all can and must contribute to building trust so sorely needed in the Middle East and the world today.
All right, Donald Trump has selected the man he wants to be the next ambassador to Israel. This is one of the most sensitive diplomatic posts in the world. Lawyer David Freeman. David Freeman has not necessarily supported the two-state solution in the past. He wants to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. This is a stance that many Republicans, some Democrats have, but it runs counter to decades of U.S. policy.
You've instantly had reaction from across the spectrum of Israeli politics when this announcement was made. From the far right, you had Naftali Bennett, who welcomed the idea, calling David Friedman a friend of Israel's. Then on the far left, you had a member of the Knesset who expressed some concern that someone who would be so vocal about not having a two-state solution, about politics in Israel, would say all these things while being in the United States in the comfort of their couches instead of here in Israel. But this could be a seismic shift for U.S. policy regarding Israel, the Palestinians, and the peace process, because David Friedman in the past has said that he is a supporter of the settlement project, and settlements from the U.S. point of view in the past has been that these are illegitimate and they're obstacles to peace. He's also been a supporter of moving the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, again going against previous U.S. administrations. And finally, he's even questioned the need for a two-state solution. And so the Palestinians are watching this, and I spoke with one Palestinian politician, Mustafa Barghouti of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, and he expressed a lot of concern for this, wondering where this leaves the Palestinians, where this leaves the peace process, especially if there is not going to be a two-state solution. That he said that this could make a very dangerous situation in Israel and the Palestinian territories.
Christmas and New Year celebrations are drawing ever closer, but the festive mood in Germany is in danger of being overshadowed by grave security concerns which are being voiced all around the country.
Just on Friday, we've had news come out that police in the southwest of Germany have detained a 12-year-old boy who's accused of having tried to set off a nail bomb at a Christmas market on two separate occasions, once on the 26th of November and again on the 5th of December. Thankfully, neither of those two devices were able to be detonated. The boy, who was born in Germany but is from an Iraqi family, is reported to have been radicalized by a still yet unnamed member of the ISIS terror network. It's certainly a very frightening thing to hear. These Christmas markets, of course, incredibly popular with Germans, but also with tourists. People fly in from all over the world to go to these markets across Germany. And it's security concerns that are really dominating the attitude towards people going to these things at the moment. We're looking ahead to New Year's Eve, of course. The city of Cologne has said that there will be a major security operation in place there. If we remember back to last year, over 650 complaints of sexual assault were registered at the New Year celebrations in the city of Cologne. Many of those reportedly carried out, or believed to have been carried out, by refugees.
Now, the European Union is offering more than $630 million to Niger. It's a move to block the flow of refugees to Europe. Niger is a transit location for many people attempting to travel to Europe through Libya. Nearly 1.5 million refugees arrived in almost 2 years.
Well, the EU is very concerned about a very high flow of migrants moving from Egypt and Libya to Italy. It's been another record-setting year along the Mediterranean migration route. So far this year, about 175,000 people have fled to Italy from Africa. More than 4,500 people have died trying to make that dangerous crossing across the Mediterranean. So the EU is trying to funnel a lot of money to Africa. The EU says what it's doing here is trying to eliminate the root cause of the migration crisis.
A cash crisis in Venezuela has sparked protests and looting after the government removed the country's most widely used banknote. President Nicolás Maduro took the 100 Bolivar note out of circulation. A new denomination is set to replace it, but those notes have yet to arrive at banks, with ATMs still issuing the old worthless currency. For the many people without credit cards, buying basic goods such as groceries has become much harder.
Right now, we know that there are some protests and lootings happening in other states across Venezuela. People are demanding a real solution to the economic crisis. The new banknotes, meant to replace the 100 Bolivar bills, are not delivered yet. Monetary transactions here in Venezuela have virtually come into collapse, with the highest denomination bill, 50 bolivars, worth only 1 cent, only 1 US cent at the unofficial exchange rate. Inflation in Venezuela is expected to rise to 1,660% in 2017.
Now, on to Zimbabwe. The introduction of bond notes over there has not eased the deep-seated cash shortages that have been plaguing the country for most of the year. In the capital, Harare, you still see meandering queues of depositors in need of cash, and they're as much as common sight now as they were before the bond notes were introduced. This surrogate currency clearly hasn't done anything to change the cash situation, as withdrawal limits in some banks have even been reduced even further, down to $50 a day from $100 a day. Already there's been quite a bit of confusion about this export incentive payments to beneficiaries, with tobacco farmers still awaiting their payment. The bond notes have now become pseudo-legal tender. Zimbabwe's National Chamber of Commerce insists that while the chamber is backing the bond notes initiative, it's not a means to an end as far as these cash shortages are concerned.
Who have gone cashless over the past 1 week?
I already have.
Wow. The three of us. Where were you?
I actually was in India for a week, and as you may have read, there's been a bit of a cash crisis in India. And it was an interesting experience, actually not being able to change as a tourist. Effectively, I was there for business, but nobody had any cash.
Let's turn to China. In a survey, 1,000 urban consumers carried out by FT Confidential Research, 98% of respondents said they had used the mobile payment platforms over the past 3 months. Alibaba's Alipay was the most frequently used payment platform, cited by 79% of the respondents. That is far greater proportion than those who said they most regularly used the credit cards, 45% of course, that is, and debit cards, 30%. Wow, see the change.
Congress has passed a bill to microchip citizens with disabilities, mental disabilities. Hard to believe, but yes, it's true. House Resolution 4919, H.R. 4919, called Kevin and Avante's Law, passed by a vote of 346 to 66. That's what we call bipartisan. This bill would purportedly find individuals, by microchipping them, individuals with dementia or children with learning disabilities who wandered away from safe environments. Now, if you're like me, you can see the potential for abuse here. Texas Representative Republican Louis Gohmert said, quote, "It is absolutely staggering that the Republican majorities in the House and Senate could be so blind to government overreach that they would allow a federal tracking program not for criminals in the U.S., not for terrorists, not for illegal immigrants, or even immigrants who commit crimes, but for people with developmental disabilities."
Researchers have countered age in mice by manipulating genes. Using a process called cellular reprogramming, scientists also tested the method on human skin cells, which appeared to act young again. According to the study's senior author, their research shows that aging may not proceed in a single direction. To revert the effects of aging, the team triggered an expression of genes associated with an embryonic state. The method rejuvenated mice with a premature aging disease and increased their lifespan by 30%.
Most people are looking to retire by the age of 80, but that is not the case for Pope Francis. The Argentinian-Italian Pope is lively for his age, making trips around the world and showing no sign of slowing down. Pope Francis will celebrate his 80th birthday on December 17th. However, he has a message for well-wishers. "In my country, expressing greetings ahead of time brings bad luck, and those who do it are jinxers," Pope Francis says.
You're going to love this story. This, ladies and gentlemen, look at your TV. That is what hard work looks like. A Chick-fil-A employee pictured in a sling and a neck brace, still ringing up customers despite being injured in a car crash. The Indiana native, 18 years old, that picture gone viral, and for good reason.
Jakeem Tyler joins us now with his incredible story. Good morning, Jakeem. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
We shared your story yesterday, and our viewers just loved your story because you embody hard work, you're a good person. How did your story go viral? What happened?
I was working, and Cameron took a photo of me, and he posted on Facebook, and later that day, or well, later that night, it just starts to blow up, and it went viral.
And he put that image up because you told him he said, "What are you doing at work? You should be at home." And what did you say?
I said, I'm getting money so I can pay regular bills like a teen does, phone bill, to get some gas in the car, but also to feed the homeless this Christmas.
That's right. And he was so struck by that story about how you wanted to help feed the homeless, he set up a GoFundMe page, and the goal was $2,500. Well, we can go to the site right now. he wanted to raise $2,500. You're now at close to $30,000 that people all across the country are calling in to help you feed the homeless.
What's your reaction to that? Almost $30,000.
I'm very blessed and grateful to have this opportunity. Thank you for everyone that has been giving and supporting me. And it's very just mind-blowing, and I'm truly grateful for it.
You know, you were involved in this car accident. The other person hit your car that you were riding in. I know you said you just wanted to go to work to make some money and to help feed the homeless. Where does that sense of responsibility come from, the good work ethic, Hakeem?
It came from my parents. When I was around 7 years old, they always just made sure I was staying on top of myself, and after church on Sundays, we would go downtown to feed the homeless, and it just happened there with my parents.
Well, I know your parents are so proud of you. What is your message to other teenagers that are watching you this morning?
Just to always be a blessing to someone, and we all go through different battles, so lean on one another and have compassion for one another.